Hello. Not a lot today. This is 11, I guess. I really, to be honest with you, um, I kind of just want to talk. Well, here's the deal. Okay, I haven't done a lot new necessarily since the last one. I know last time I'm not gonna do comic books in this one. We'll do that eventually. But what I am gonna do is talk about just like hardcore wrestling and stuff like that because I did watch a couple matches. Um, and I was like, I haven't watched wrestling in forever, so I might as well talk about that. Why not? So that's what I'm doing today. We're going to talk about Mike Awesome and or the Gladiator, depending on where you're watching him. Now, I think I first saw Awesome in FMW, I believe. I was just going to talk about FMW and ECW and whatever today. Wing. We'll just talk about that kind of stuff. No XPW, none of that. Um, but yeah, no GCW. I mean, I guess we could talk about GCW, but it's like, why? Because there's a bunch of junk. But anyway, at least to me, look, I'm not opposed to deathmatch wrestling. Okay? I'm not saying that. It's all right. It depends. I think what makes it different is if it's a wrestler that is able to actually wrestle that isn't a death match, it's okay. Like if it's Terry Funk or Mick Foley, okay. But if it's like Joey Janela, or like Danzig, get him out of here. You know what I'm saying? I don't want this. Like, I'm good, bro. I don't want to see this. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. Um, but anyway, the matches that I watched, I'm just going to talk about the matches I watched, and I'm just going to spitball and just talk about whatever. Because I don't really have a plan for this one. I'm just going to kind of talk about wrestling or whatever. Like I said, probably mostly FMW, ECW, that kind of thing. But I watched because YouTube, like WWE Vault, uploaded a video about Mike Awesome. I was like, that sounds fun, so I clicked on it, and I'd seen the stuff with him and Masada Tanaka before, but I was like, I'm gonna watch these again because why not? And I mean, they're awesome. Like, I've always loved Masada Tanaka in FMW, in ECW. If you don't know, by the way, what I'm talking about, with wrestling, if you have no background of anything to do with wrestling, there was a company. You definitely know what Raw is. You definitely know what you know WCW Nitro is. You definitely know what that is, at least. You've heard of Stone Cold. You've heard of The Rock. You've heard of the NWO. You've heard of stuff like that. You've heard of Sting. You know what that stuff is, at least. Undertaker, right? I'd assume. Well, that is the Attitude Era in the 90s, okay? So, like, late 90s is the Attitude Era. And the Monday Night War started in 1995. I believe it was September. Don't quote me on that. But the first Nitro, I believe, was in September of 95. And it had Lex Luger pulling up in a big white shirt for some reason. It had, like, Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger on it. I mean, it was crazy. It was in a shopping mall. It was nuts. And you can find it somewhere. I don't know where because it's not on Peacock no more, I don't think. So good luck finding it. But you can find it somewhere. It might be on Netflix. I ain't never had Netflix. I don't know. But which is such a bummer, by the way. Like, what are they doing? Why are they making it so hard to watch their product? I just want to watch the product. I want to give you money. You're not even allowing me to do that. Like, you want me to get a VPN just to watch Nitro? I'm not doing it. Anyway, I probably am going to do it eventually, but whatever. That's besides the point. What I'm getting at is, um, you've definitely heard of that. You've heard of the Monday Night Wars. You've heard of Nitro. You've heard of Raw, Raw's War, or whatever, right? And that wouldn't exist. Okay, I'm not saying it wouldn't have existed because Raw existed in '93, right? But my point is, wrestling as it was in the 90s, which is the most popular point it ever had. I don't care what you say. You can say it's more popular right now. I don't agree. Okay? I just don't. It was way bigger because, again, with the internet and everything and like social media, numbers are inflated. So if we're just going back to like the numbers that Raw or Nitro were getting back in the 90s, it was astronomical because that junk didn't exist. You had the dirt sheets, and you had stuff like that. But like, bro, you didn't have as much information and as much knowledge. There weren't smarks running around, which is a smart mark. Which, if you don't know what a mark is, back in the Carney days, if there was somebody they know would, you know, come to the show, they know was a fan, they'd mark them. I think it was like, I'm pretty sure it was a marker or chalk or something. They put something on them so you know, hey, this guy is a fan. This guy is going to pay. So now I may be completely wrong on that. By the way, I hope not. I'm self-professed wrestling historian. Okay, nobody's telling me that this is true, but I'm pretty sure that's where it came from. Anyway, but we get to, in the '90s with the internet, there's smart marks, which is basically a smart, or like somebody that knows what's up. They think they know, or maybe they do know how the business works. They know wrestling's scripted. They know that the finish is already known, that kind of thing. And they're a smart mark. Well, there was an influx of those in the '90s because of the internet. And now it's full blown. I don't think you can find a single person that watches wrestling that isn't a smart mark, because we all know how it works, right? That's just how it is. But anyway, back to this point where I'm getting to with FMW, right? With wrestling in the '90s, it was huge, and it was because they wrote it a specific way. ECW is a good example of this, and we're getting to ECW in a second. But without ECW, WWF Raw and like all the craziness, that doesn't happen. Without ECW, WCW Nitro, and all the craziness that they did, doesn't happen, in my opinion. Okay, I'm just saying they stole a lot of stuff from ECW, but at the same time, guess what ECW did? They stole a lot of stuff from FMW. ECW would not exist, or at least Eastern Championship Wrestling would exist, but Extreme Championship Wrestling would not exist without FMW. What is FMW? It is Frontier Martial Arts Professional Wrestling. Because at the time, before it was, the crazy barbed wire stuff, it was just, we got, Leon Spinks and like all these martial artists and boxers and all these weird guys. Let's get these guys to wrestle Onita. There's a guy named Atsushi Onita, and he used to wrestle for All Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, All Japan Pro Wrestling, gosh, I could do a whole thing on Japanese wrestling too, but All Japan was a split from all. So way back in the day, there was a guy named Ricky Dozan, right? And Ricky Dozan was a Korean guy who was pretending to be Japanese, because there was a lot of racism between Koreans and Japanese guys back then. There might even still be, I don't know. I'm American, okay, so I'm kind of ignorant to that kind of thing. But when he came over, he pretended to be Japanese, and he was really over and really popular. He had matches with Lou Thesz, he had matches with Freddie Blassie, he was just really big, and I'm pretty sure he won. Didn't he win the NWA title from Thesz, or am I tripping? I know he won whatever the heck belt Blassie had. I forget what that was, but I'm pretty sure. If it wasn't the NWA title, it was a belt of some kind. I think it was NWA. I'm like 99% sure that it was the NWA title. And he won it from Thesz, which that's ridiculous. Like, it's Lou Thesz, okay? I don't know how to compare that to somebody, but it's Lou Thesz. So it's like, whoa. That's like the I was gonna say Jerry Rice. It's like the I don't know who's a famous quarterback. Jerry Rice ain't even a quarterback, is he? He's like a wide receiver. Dan Marino. I don't know. He's the somebody of wrestling. Like he's that guy. You know what I'm saying? He's like the Babe Ruth of wrestling. Like, he's huge. He's like the guy. And wrestling wouldn't even exist probably now if it wasn't for him, because he got it over in Japan. And if it wasn't over in Japan, then wrestling wouldn't really be big right now, which is what I'm getting at right now with FMW. FMW would not exist without Lou Thesz. All Japan would not exist. New Japan would not exist without Lou Thesz. So, basically, Ricky Dozan and Thesz and, a couple other dudes, they got wrestling over huge in Japan. And it became massive. And then, eventually, that leads to a split between two of Ricky Dozan's underlings, Giant Baba and Antonio Inoki. Antonio Inoki splits and makes his own thing, and it's called New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then Baba stays and changes the name. I forget what it was called. It was like IWE or IWA or something. I forget. I'm sorry. But he changed it to All Japan Pro Wrestling. So now we have All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Well, they're both very different. Strong Style, Kings Road, whatever, right? They're different. But I've always been an All Japan guy, right? I get there's the Three Musketeers. They're cool, all right? Shono is sweet. Hashimoto is my guy. Muda's cool. But, and also Kensuke Sasaki was in New Japan. He was insane in New Japan. But All Japan had Masawa, Kobashi, Kawada. Oh my gosh, I'm a big Kobashi guy. One of my favorites ever. So for me, I've always been an All Japan guy, but I get it if you're New Japan, that's completely fine. And in fact, I'm also an FMW guy. So yeah, but anyway, I mean, I'm taking All Japan over FMW, but I love FMW. I love Noah. I love all of them. But anyway, let's skip ahead way too far. But basically, when they split, and Inoki I think it's in '74, I believe. Inoki is in New Japan now, and All Japan has a thing with NWA as well. At the time with the territories and everything, and they start to kind of grow. And they have matches with Jack Briscoe, and Bravo's beating Briscoe for the world title, and there's actually a funny story with that. Briscoe, back in the day when the NWA existed, by the way, that's the National Wrestling Alliance, okay? So the National Wrestling Alliance exists, and all these different guys, right, Dory Funk Sr., Bill Watts, Eddie Graham, all these different guys. They're all basically voting, like Von Erich. They're all kind of voting for who they want the champion to be. That's how it worked back then. It was a bunch of guys, and they would kind of vote, okay, this is who we want to be the champion. We want Briscoe to be the champion. We want Funk to win the title. We want Flair to win the title. We want Race to win the title. So they would do that, right? And then they'd have to pay down a deposit because the belt, the 10 pounds of gold one, the Dome Globe one, that one, like the raccoon one, which is my favorite belt ever, by the way. I love it. I need to get a replica. I have the big gold and I have the winged eagle, but I have to get that one eventually. My favorite belt. Anyway, but they'd have to pay a $25,000 deposit for that belt because they're the champion. And if they lost the belt in a shoot fight, which is a real fight, and somebody took it, they wouldn't get their money back, right? Or if they, went into business for themselves and cost, I'm going to lose it to this guy, or I don't want to get rid of it, so I'm going to keep it. They're not going to get their money back. So that was what they had to do. They had to put down a deposit for the world title. And you should have seen Terry Funk when he had it. He destroyed that thing. All the paint was gone. It was so messed up. But so they probably should have kept some of it. But anyway, that was in 74, I think. 75. Right? Or is that 75? I think he won it in 75, lost it in 77 to Harley Race in Canada, to Indian Deathlock. I think. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, but, because then Harley had it for a while, and then he loses it to Flair. No, he loses it to Dusty, and then Dusty loses it to Flair, and then Flair loses it to Race, and then Race loses it to Flair again at Starrcade 83. I think. I haven't thought about this in so long. So you got to cut me some slack. I'm rusty. I haven't thought about wrestling in a long time, I'll be honest. I've been in a big hockey brain, like, because the season's going on. So I haven't been thinking about wrestling in a while. But anyway. But what was I saying? Oh, I was talking about, yeah. So Briscoe had to pay the deposit, right? And he's got the $25,000. And he's like, okay, Baba, we're going to have this match, and you want to win the belt. You want to win it. So how about this? You give me $25,000, and I'll lose it. And then we can do a hot potato, and you give it back to me in a couple days. I think they had 3 matches, I believe, or maybe it was 2. I know Harley had 3. It might have been 2. I think they had 2 matches, one where he loses it, one where he wins it. And then Harley, I think, had 3 where he lost it, and then won it. I think. Not lost it in the second one, obviously, but I'm just saying lost the match and then won it back in the third one. That might have been Briscoe, though. I think it was Race. Anyway, but that happened to somebody. Because Race and Briscoe both lost it to Baba in the 70s. In fact, the race one might have even been early 80s, but I know that the Briscoe ones were the 70s. Because Briscoe had it in like early 70s. Anyway, but we're getting to this match with Baba. It's in Japan, right? It's crazy. You can find it on YouTube. It's crazy. Those matches are nuts, and then the ones with Harley as well. But the ones with Briscoe are some of my favorite matches and of his and of Baba's. Like, they're just nuts. But they do the match, and they switch it back. He gets it back, right? And he has to literally, to go through the airport, he has to tape the money on his body under his clothes. So he has $25,000 cash on his body under his clothes when he's going through the airport. And he had to fly all the way from Japan back to America. Probably Oklahoma, right? Because that's where they were from. And then, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. So, yeah, he had to smuggle $25,000 through the airport. But that was wrestling, bro. That was wrestling. It was nuts. Anyway. I'm thirsty. It's cold as heck, man. My lips are dry. Hands are dry. It's just, oh my gosh. It's like 20 degrees. Anyway. So, now, what was I even talking about? All Japan? I just kind of got into a spiel. It happens. Shoot. Okay. We're getting to FMW. Yes. Onita wrestled for All Japan. Right? Here's the deal. He was one of the young lions. And he was kind of like an acrobatic type of guy. He wasn't like the best. He wasn't like Tiger Mask or something, but he was okay. Right? He's not Liger. He's not like one of them type of dudes. But he's doing all right. He's not Sasuke. Right? But he's okay. And he's wrestling. Well, he gets injured. And I want you to guess, how did he get injured? Did he like land on his head? Did he hurt his arm, like doing a move, or what happened to him? Guess what he did? He jumped off the apron and landed on his leg wrong. That's what happened. Like, it was absurd. That match was over. He was leaving the ring, and he jumped off the apron and like broke his leg, and he couldn't wrestle anymore. So it's crazy. But also, guess what? If that had never happened, wrestling would not be the same. Isn't that insane how that works? Like, it's nuts. Like Hulk Hogan had a thing with, was it Hiro Matsuda? Who the heck was that? I forget who that was. It might have been Saito. I don't remember. I think it was Hiro Matsuda. But somebody broke his leg when he was training in AWA for Vern Gagne up in Minnesota. His leg was broken by this Japanese guy. I think it was Hiro Matsuda. Because they would do that in AWA. They'd beat you up. And they'd put you through the ringer, and so you'd stay, right? And see, okay, this guy stayed, so let's actually give him a shot. That happened to Ric Flair, happened to Ricky Steamboat, happened to a lot of guys. And Vern would beat you up. He'd beat you up, man. Stu Hart used to do that too. In the Hart dungeon. He would just put you down there in his basement and stretch you for 3 hours. It's just like that's just how it was back then. And to be a wrestler, you had to be really tough. And you also had to be a shooter or a hooker. That's what they called it back then. Where you could actually take a guy and break their leg or break their arm or beat them up. If you had to, if they went into business for themselves and tried to beat you for real and take your belt, you had to learn how to actually fight for yourself and defend for yourself. So, anyway. But Hogan had his leg broken on his first day. And if he hadn't come back, Hulk Hogan would not exist. So isn't that crazy? If he had gotten his leg broken and just never wrestled again, Hulkamania would never have existed. The MTV deal would have never have existed. Like, wrestling would be in such a different place now. It's crazy. It's crazy. This is before FMW, so it'd be even less, right? It's like nuts. But anyway. So with him breaking his leg and getting hurt, Onita, he had to wrestle in a different way now. He can't wrestle like a cruiserweight anymore. He's got to wrestle a different way. He's got to be kind of on the ground and kind of, rough and tumble, and he can't really take a lot of crazy bumps and do a lot of flying stuff. So he had to figure out something else to do, and so he came up with Frontier Martial Arts Professional Wrestling. I think it started in '89, I believe. And I think the first like crazy match he ever had was against Tarzan Godo. I'm pretty sure. I'm wearing these slacks, so I gotta adjust myself, bro. Sorry. Too much information. But yeah, he had a match with Tarzan Godo. I think it was in 1991, and that was the first like barbed wire match they ever had. It might even been the first barbed wire match that ever occurred ever. I think so. Yeah, the first of many. But before then, he would just wrestle, you know, random guys, like guys from Russia, guys from, wherever. And it was like they were just martial art guys. They were, boxers or whatever the heck they were. And it was like people came to watch Onita, but nobody really cared about these matches. They just wanted to see Onita because he was over as heck, right? And then you kind of start getting into the women's stuff with Megumi Kudo and Combat Toyota and a lot of guys like that. And, there were other guys, but it was all about Onita. It was all about Onita, right? There was Tarzan Godo. There was other guys, but it was all about Onita. And then you get into the barbed wire stuff, right? That's when it starts to get crazy. Ganosuke and like all these dudes showing up, and it's like, bro, we're getting nuts. We're getting nuts. And they eventually have one of my favorite matches ever in FMW. You can find this on YouTube. It's easy to find. Terry Funk, former NWA champion, ridiculously over in Japan with his brother Dory Funk Jr. as a tag team. Stan Hansen's also really popular in Japan, but I'd say Terry's probably the most popular Gaijin ever. I mean, you can argue with me, but I feel like that's pretty accurate. I mean, who else would take that? You know what I'm saying? Terry Gordy, I mean, Steve Williams, but I feel like Terry Funk was up there, bro. Him and Hansen, easily. Andre, right? But anyway, we get to Terry Funk versus Onita in an exploding barbed wire death match, the first one they ever had. And how they did it was they would put pyrotechnics around the ring, and whenever they hit the barbed wire, it would explode. And they had a ticking time bomb, and at the very end of that timer, the ring would explode. The entire ring would blow up and kill them both. That was like basically that's basically what it was implying, right? And so he sold out. It's outside. It's not in an arena. Sold out. Everybody's there. There's people sitting in the front row for some reason, right? Like, oh, I want to get blown up too. Let's go to this in the front row. But they have this match, and he hits him with the DDT, hits him with the, what was it, the Fire Thunder Power Bomb or Thunder Fire Power Bomb, or I forget which one it was. I think it was Thunder Fire Power Bomb. I'm pretty sure, which is basically just like a Dominator, but you power bomb him, and it was nuts. It was nuts. Covers him. 1, 2, 3. Onita wins the match. They both hit the barbed wire, explodes before this, whatever. They're both bleeding. They're both out. And the time's going down, right? There's like 10 seconds. Onita gets out of the ring. He's like, I'm going to leave Terry in the middle of the ring. He's just dead in the middle of the ring, right? And then he goes back in the ring. It's counting down. It's like 5 seconds. He goes back in the ring. He slides under. He gets on top of Funk. 3, 2, 1. Boom! It blows up. They're both dead. It was like the greatest face move ever, like of all time. Onita was the biggest face ever. He sacrificed himself to save Terry Funk. It was awesome, And then he's pouring the water on their heads, and he's screaming, right? I'm pretty sure. He did Onita Theater so much, I forget if he did it during this match, but I'm pretty sure he did. I don't know what he's saying, but he's screaming something, right? About FMW being number one or whatever. And, yeah, man. That was the thing about Onita. He was so nuts. Like, one time, Onita got all cut up during a match, right? He had a barbed wire match. so his back's all cut up and everything. And the crowd is so rampant and nuts, and they're so crazy. He's like being run through the streets, right, with all these guys chasing him. He goes on this little bridge and over this water, and he jumps into it. And then the fans grab a Colonel Sanders statue and throw it in there with him. Well, it turns out that this was like the most disgusting water in Japan, and he almost dies. He gets like insanely ill, and he can't wrestle for like a month or two, and the FMW almost dies because he's the only reason people go. So yeah, it was nuts. But Onita was crazy, but he was also the best. I think he still wrestles to this day. Actually, don't quote me on that. He used to come out to Wild Thing as well, which John Moxley does that now. But yeah, so yeah, legend, awesome. Then we get to Hayabusa. I'm not gonna get into Hayabusa today, but then you get into some Hayabusa, Eziyazaki, who is the man, one of my favorite wrestlers ever, if not my favorite. Bret Hart, tough to beat, but I love me some Hayabusa. Easily my favorite Japanese wrestler if I'm picking one of those. Or Kabashi. I love Kabashi. It's hard to pick. Kabashi's just a big meaty man slapping meat, so it's hard to not like him more than Hayabusa, but I do love Hayabusa. He's like a flippy dippy guy, he's just really fun to watch. 450 splashes, Phoenix splashes, lion salts, all kinds of Acai moon salts, all kind of crazy stuff. Anyway, him and Jinsei Shinzaki was I hope I said that right. Jinsei Shinzaki, right? Or is it just Jinsei Shizaki? Shoot. I haven't looked at so long. I think it's Shinzaki. I think it's Jinsei Shinzaki. But he had a name in WWF. I can't think of what it was. Golly. I can't think of it. But he used to wear like kanji all over him. I'm going to have to look it up. What his name was. And I should cut right now, but I just don't feel like it. This has been all one go. And I'm just like, might as well just leave it in. Who cares? But he had a match like Bret Hart. He was there for a little while. He didn't do a lot, mind you, but he was there. He was much better in Japan, of course. Him and Hayabusa had a match in ECW. I think it was against Rob Van Dam and Sabu, maybe. But they had a crazy match. It was awesome. So check that one out. It might have been Jerry. No. Shoot. Who the heck? I don't know who he was with. Anyway. Let me see. Hakushi. Was that really it? Hakushi? Huh. Okay. Hakushi. That's a weird name. I guess that was his name in WWF. What was Vince thinking? Anyway. All right. But anyway, they had a match in ECW as well, which that match is awesome. So if you can find that one on YouTube, you should check that junk out because it's incredible. But yeah, man, I love FMW, and if FMW had not existed, no, it was RVD and Sabu. Yeah, it was. If FMW had not existed, in fact, Shawn Michaels actually reffed a match one time in FMW. You can find that too. That junk is nuts. It was like after the back injury and stuff, and he like kind of retired from wrestling, and he's wearing some like booty shorts, and he comes out there. It's crazy. It's crazy. That junk's nuts. That's a Hayabusa match. He's not Hayabusa because it's Mr. Ganosuke is pretending to be Hayabusa, but Eziyazaki is actually Hayabusa, but he's not wrestling as Hayabusa. It's confusing. Anyway, but yeah, but that junk's awesome. So check that out. I guess that's about it for today. I was just talking about FMW. I was going to talk about Mike Awesome. He had some matches. He was in FMW as the Gladiator, and him and Masaya Tanaka both were in FMW and had matches there. They were like FMW guys, and they came to America, right, and wrestled in ECW, wrestled in for Awesome, wrestled in WCW, wrestled in. Did he ever wrestle in WWF? Awesome. Maybe during the invasion. I don't know. I know he was that 70s guy. He's the fat chick thriller. He had some, Russo ruined him. But anyway, but awesome in ECW and FMW is the man. He's the ECW champion. You know, when Taz went to WWF and then had that thing with Kurt Angle or whatever at the Rumble. Um, he won it from him in a 3-way with him and Masato Tanaka. But anyway, Mike Awesome is the man, and his match, he had a match in FMW. It was like a exploding pool match or something. It was like crazy. It was nuts. Like they would go in the water and it'd blow up in the water or something. It was like craziness. It's like it's like a ring in the middle of this giant swimming pool or something. It was crazy. Anyway, but yeah, shout out to FMW. It's nuts. I'll probably talk more about, and we didn't even get into Wing, but it's just 30 minutes long, so I'm gonna stop. We didn't get into Wing. We didn't get into, Hayabusa stuff or none of that, because if you start talking about Wing and all that junk, it gets nuts. Leatherface and all that stuff, dude, it gets crazy. So, yeah, but I'm gonna call it here. Yeah, I thought maybe it was Jerry Lynn in that match and Rob Van Dam, but it wasn't. It was Hayabusa. But Jerry Lynn, man, he had some crazy matches with RVD and ECW as well. And in TNA, his stuff with AJ was always good, man. Like him and AJ and TNA. We can talk about TNA eventually, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. This is 11, I think. My first one actually talking about wrestling, kind of. First of many, probably. But yeah, that's about it. See ya. Real quick, though, I'm going to tack this on to the end. The whole purpose of this whole thing was just to talk about how without FMW and that crazy stuff, ECW wouldn't exist. And without ECW, the Attitude Era wouldn't have existed. So that was really the whole purpose of this one, was basically just to say, okay, wrestling and how popular it was in the 90s would not have existed without FMW. And that was it. And FMW wouldn't have existed without Onita, so Onita is the reason wrestling exists. I was obviously a very, I'm joking. I'm not being serious. But Onita is certainly a forefather of modern day professional wrestling, and it wouldn't look like it does now without him. That was the goal of this whole one. Okay, thank you.